Hey, kia ora koutou whānau. Welcome back to another edition of Big Hero News. This is the summer series, and this is the last pre-recorded show before we come back and we're live again next Monday. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. Really appreciate you guys getting involved in the best ofs. I appreciate you guys being gracious and giving us time, and spread the word, right? Monday. We're back again. We want to see you again. Monday's show will probably be a bit of a wrap on what's been happening since we've been away. And a bit of a catch up with you guys live again Monday night from 9 p.m. Excited. Tonight on the show, prior to the election, it was pretty clear that National wanted to turn New Zealand into the handmaid's tale. Will they do that or not? I guess we'll find out. Also, satirist Dave Armstrong joined us last year in June, actually, talking about the evils that are bilingual road signs. Ooh. And also David Seymour. We'll have a clip about David Seymour tonight. He got pretty flummoxed by quite basic questions in May of last year. And that'll be a best of episode clip for you for tonight. As we said, spread the word. Tell the world we're back again on Monday. We'd love to see a good chunk, a good number of audience back live again on Monday night from 9 p.m. because that's when we're back. But for now, this is the last best of show. So let's just rip straight into it. Here we go. The Labour Party's been listening, and they've come out pretty hard nuts today with National's war on women. Maybe not their words, but their intimation. Have a listen.
Labour's campaign manager has compared a New Zealand governed by National to the dystopian novel and TV show The Handmaid's Tale.
It came after National confirmed it would reinstate prescription fees for most people needing contraception if it's elected. Here's political reporter Amelia Wade.
I want to say as well, I figured her name. It's not Nicola Willis. Anyway, National MP here. Or maybe it is Nicola Willis. No, it is Nicola Willis. Shakespeare talks about methinks the lady doth protesteth too much. Really interesting that the response from this is not a man, but it's Nicola Willis, I think, from memory. And it is really interesting to see how aggressively she's pushing back on this, because methinks the woman doth protesteth too much.
The fictional Republic of Gilead with its handmaids is not a nice place for women.
My name is Offred. I had another name.
It is hardly Aotearoa, but that didn't stop Labour's campaign chair from comparing the two in a tweet.
This is about a government that has got down into the gutter and is getting into completely ridiculous, baseless attacks.
So I think that is a meme of pearl clutching, the dictionary definition of pearl clutching. You know, I think that whether true or not, it is exactly, when we talk about the political game here a lot, it's exactly what the political game will do. We talked a little bit last week, and perhaps I've mentioned Ron DeSantis already tonight. Perhaps it says one of the jobs of the politician in the political party is not to give your opposition fodder. As soon as they did this, they gave their opposition, being the Labour Party, fodder. And the response from Nicola Willis, in my opinion, is just like one of outrage, when actually, even though it may not be a fair comparison because it's an extreme, you can see how the Labour Party has got there in their advertising, Chewy. You know, absolutely. Women need the pill, need contraception. We'll give it to them for free. You guys are going to not. It's not that they're going to charge you for it. It's that you're going to take away their free prescription and recharge them. No matter how you spin it, you can see how Labour can get there in an advertising campaign. That response, there's another one as well from Nicola Willis, is, I'll say again, doth protesteth too much. Probably because it's a pretty good attack from Labour. It's pretty good.
Well, hyperbole.
Sorry, mate. Go.
Oh, I was just saying that they left themselves wide open to it.
Well, especially when you've got a leader, who was questioned over his thoughts around abortion, who has compared abortion to murder, and you know, the Western world is looking to America after Roe versus Wade, going, what's it possible to happen here? Now, I'm not saying any of that's going to happen, but when you add all of those things up, it's actually really easy to see this as a slam dunk attack campaign from Labour. And the response there, I know she can't go, yeah, they got us, which would be ridiculous. but it was just a little bit too in the gutter. Like National's not going to be in the gutter in the next, 18, 20 weeks. What?
Is kicked off because Labor's making all prescriptions free from next month. But National said it would reinstate the $5 fee if elected, but include carve-outs for retirees and low-income Kiwis. But not for most people needing contraception, though. They'd have to pay as they now do.
The current entitlements that women have to contraception are really important, and we are not proposing to change them in any way.
And boy, oh boy, did Labor pile on.
The 1950s calls and they want their national party back.
Not only did Megan Woods
It's a good
tweet her
attack.
Handmaid's Tale gif in response, 2 attack ads were launched against the Nats.
No attacking, it's just good for New Zealanders to see what's going on in this little place here, election year.
A Labor email begging for donations went out, claiming National would increase fees for people who need contraception.
This is a complete smear campaign from the Labor Party.
Is
In
it?
fact, the Nats say that
Yeah, okay, so the next question for Mr. Luxon is, what exactly is the smear? Like, just quantify, just nail down what the smear is. The smear is what? That you're going to have women pay for their contraception again? Or that you don't like the comparison to a dystopian future where women are treated as second-hand citizens? What's the actual smear? Just to be clear.
actually looking at improving access to long-term contraception like IUDs and injections.
Did you go too far?
No, I didn't.
Christopher Luxon should have been prepared for this contraceptive landmine
Exactly.
laid by Labor in the budget. They see Luxon's personal stance on abortion as a weakness with women, so they leapt at the chance for another reproductive rights crack. But their hyperbole is an own goal. If Labor's Handmaid outrage is to be believed, why has it taken them 6 years to remove the prescription fee? Amelia?
Completely fair question back.
That is very fair, actually.
Yeah,
Yes.
of course. But the thing is, this is about narrative, and Labor is winning the narrative, saying, see that white, wealthy, man who doesn't believe you should have autonomy over your body. Well, we want to help you get contraception, even though it's 6 years too late. He wants to take our help for you and take it away from you. And look, there are people in the chat saying it. Yeah, like Simon says here, that National walked straight into it. Of course. Yeah. I mean, lucky coincidence perhaps as to what was actually planned. But God, if this was actually a plan, like if this was actually someone came up in the back room and says, we'll do this, they'll do that, then it's like a playing 3-layer chess. I doubt that. I doubt that's the case. I think they probably walked into it.
This seems like New Zealand politics via Wile E. Coyote. Like Labor, and it does look like this. They set up a trap, and Luxon charged headfirst into it, and now they're all reacting to it. It very much feels like a set piece to me. That Labor had so much ready to go the moment that National bit. And it comes back to the fact that Luxon is not a great political operator. He's an amateur. And also all the people behind him seem to be amateurs, that they couldn't see this as a potential, if we do this, then this happens.
Yeah. How do you respond? How do you feel? And I might play it again. Let me just find it where it is. How do you feel about the response from Nicola Willis? Let's play it. And let's just play the first comment again, because as I said, to me, this is a meme for the dictionary definition of pearl clutching.
It's about a government that has got down into the gutter and is getting into completely ridiculous, baseless attacks.
But are they? Yeah. I'll agree. It's obviously it's an exaggeration. It's a drawing a conclusion that if they go here, then here's the worst case scenario. Well, agree with all of that. But baseless. Baseless means there's no way of connecting those dots to the worst case scenario. I think they can connect those dots to the worst case scenario. I don't think National will go to the worst case scenario myself, obviously. But as an attack campaign, as an attack ad, as a series of ads to say, careful, this is where it could go. Careful, Auckland, if you hire this mayor, when he starts to shut down media outlets and not allow them to get the press out there, then what? No, he will never do that. He'll never. You know what I mean? Like at the extreme, At the extreme, then you've got, it's America where Trump will only talk to 3 channels. That's the extreme of what Wayne Brown's doing right now. So you can go, this is their policy, this is what they're doing. What would the extreme be? It's not baseless. There is literally a base to it, because a base is the most simple foundation. So there is actually a literal base to it.
Yeah, I think as far as Nicola Willis's reaction there, if you see her normally talking, normally responding to the press, she does not speak like this.
Yeah.
Like, over emphasis of what I'm saying is very much seems like a performance to me. And if again, don't throw stones if you live in a glass house. If you want to talk about smear campaigns, you can turn around to some of her MPs and have a look at see how their social media is going. There's Simon O'Connor. And what their statements are. Like, the thing is, they've sprung a trap, and now they're lashing out because they've been caught in it and they look like prats.
There's a comment in the chat that says, how's this pearl clutching? Let me do it this way, yeah? I'm going to take my headphones off for this because I'll do it this way. This is what pearl clutching is, right? This is what pearl clutching is. When someone goes, oh, I can't believe they did that. I can't believe they're so mean. They're so mean. That's such a mean thing to say. Oh, my head. Oh, my pearls. That's what pearl clutching is, yeah? And that's exactly what she did when they were talking about gutter, going straight to the gutter. It's absolutely what it is. It's a complete correct analogy as to what it was, because that's what she did. I can't believe they'd be so dirty. What?
Yeah, it's not even the gutter. It's just like, look, here's this guy that said some really sketchy things about abortion, and now he's doing something with contraception. It's a straight line. It's not the gutter.
Yeah.
It's on a silver platter, on a fucking table, in clear view of everyone.
Hey team, welcome back. Thanks so much for being with us tonight in this best of series, the summer series, as we take a bit of a break, but we're back live again from next Monday. Just remember that. Huge thanks to our patrons. Love having you guys on board, especially during this period where views are down and the shop's not really getting used. So these beautiful people here are helping us continue to pay the bills that don't go away, even though we have gone away during the holiday period. A huge thanks to all of our beautiful patrons who help us pay the bills. We've had a few new patrons coming on board whilst we've been away. This is not my word, this is theirs. A patron that called themselves Incompetent. That's just the name. And Rob are a couple of people who have signed up during this holiday period. If you're interested in joining on board in what we're doing, you'll want to help support us, and head to patreon.com/Big Hairy News to be a patron, as that helps us to continue to do what we're doing through the year. Thanks so much to all of our patrons. We love you to bits. We will continue right now with the summer series with another pre-recorded clip from last year, and we'll see you on Monday night from 9 p.m. live again. Dave Armstrong is a playwright and a satirist. He is a multiple award-winning playwright, and he writes for The Post. There you go. I didn't balls it up the very first time. I said The Post. I didn't say the Post, which you don't say anymore. I said The Post. And we want to welcome Dave to the show to have a chat about what he put out today. Dave, good evening to you.
Kia ora koroa. Good to be here.
Kia ora. Good to be with you, sir. Hey, now, we've been talking about Simeon Brown, and his absolute, I was going to say brain fart over the weekend as to what he said. Okay, this is a little bit judgy and a little bit wrong of me, but I'm reliably informed by several insiders who know the inner workings of Parliament that he's not a very smart guy. So maybe he just thought he was making a very clever, good move to get votes, and it's ended up bouncing back incredibly poorly. So much so that the walk back over the last couple of days has been ridiculous to watch, and has been has just been farcical. No, what I meant was, if old people can't read road signs, then that might be dangerous. Just absolutely ridiculous justifications for things that were never said over the weekend, but it's that revisionist history saying, no, this is what I meant. This is what I meant. So we've been talking a lot about that. Look, do you want to just have because your article, your writings today addresses this brilliantly. But before we kind of have a look at your writing and talk more about that, do you have anything you want to add or say to that overall conversation that we've been having the last couple of nights?
Yeah, well, I think that's interesting. You're talking about Simeon Brown. On one hand, yes, I've never met the guy. I don't know how intelligent he is or not. I think on some things he's been very well spoken. But the thing is, you say that you sort of had a brain fart. He's saying what, I suspect the majority of national voters think. I don't, or certainly in regional New Zealand, I don't think there's a great technique where people go, oh, that's just an extremist, or that's just someone, on the fringes. I mean, the left do that too. Actually, what he's saying is pretty mainstream National Party thinking in a lot of the provinces. So I don't think he's a minority. But what he's done is he's mucked it up for the caucus, because the caucus, New Zealand's a great little place. The Labour caucus are always to the right of the people that vote for them, and the National caucus are always to the left of the people that vote for them. And so what he's done is he said what you're not meant. He said in public what you only say at the family dinner table.
Yeah.
So
he said out loud what he's supposed to keep in his head.
That's right. And then, of course, Luxon did the same thing. He said, "Oh, I can't tell the difference between Te Whare Ora and Waka Kotahi." And even though Luxon's learning Māori himself, and he's actually been sort of in some ways quite progressive on the whole race relations debate. So it's a massive cock up for the National Party, because they've got their own members saying things. And I don't know if you watched the newsroom. They got the people as they walked out, and Harete Hipango, she was just like furious at what Simeon had said. And then the guy from Hamilton East, his name escapes me right now, but he was very sort of moderate, and he said, "Yeah, I'm relaxed. Yeah, but you might be relaxed, but look what's going on, So I sort of personally just reflected on that and thought, they've got a pothole here, the National Party. They're banging into it.
A pothole's an appropriate thing. They've got a pothole. They now need to fix it, because the other thing they're doing is they're promising all of us that the roads are going to be perfect once they get in, which is a nice thing to have. I was going to say as well, you talked about, people don't know what the words mean. I saw a journalist talking to Chris Hipkins about that. I'm going to say it was Jenna Lynch. It's always Jenna Lynch. It may not have been Jenna Lynch, but there was a journalist challenging Christopher Hipkins as to what Waka Kotahi meant. She's like, what does it mean? And he's like, well, it's a New Zealand transport agency, but what do the words mean? And Christopher Hipkins went, I don't know. And I thought about that for a while, and I went, Chewy, do you know what the word Patrick means? There's a meaning to it. Do you know what it means?
No.
But you still use it in the context of what it's for, which is my name. It means nobleman, if you're just wanting to know. That's what it means. It means nobleman.
Fancy man.
It is, but you don't know the meaning of the word, but you can still use it in a correct context in an appropriate way. So it was a stupid question, and now it's a stupid argument about people don't know what this means. If I didn't know the definition of my street name, I'd still know where my street was, and I'd still know what it was called to identify. So that's all like just a bit of bullshit, if you ask me.
And the other thing with Māori too is a lot of names, and like in English, the names don't always make sense on the first thing. Like you could think, oh, Waka Kotahi means first waka, first canoe, but it doesn't. And so you get this sort of people have to think about it. But I think that I've really watched closely the whole Don Brash thing and the whole anti-Māori on radio and anti-Māori street names, and I think there's a very deep underlying hostility amongst many Pākehā, not a majority, but a minority that really hate the fact that this is happening, and they really find it's a threat to their life. And I just think Māori makes my life, Māori language makes my life more interesting. And as a writer and a satirist, I can make jokes in two languages. I think it's great. I think it's fantastic that we have this rich, what I call New Zealand English. I'm not a Māori speaker, although I've tried to learn some te reo, and I do use it in my writing. But I just think it's fantastic. We have the apple tree and the pear tree of English, and we have the plum tree of Māori, and we can pick the fruit and make it one great big fantastic sort of language. So I don't see what the problem is about. If you're driving, you're going to get the idea. If there's two names, you're going to just your eyes are going to go to the one you understand. And the other thing too is like I noticed today, they said, oh, let's just have Māori for the unimportant stuff. This is from the National Party things, but let's have English for the real important stuff. Now, what message are we sending there to people? We're saying here that okay, this isn't a big font, So it's in English and it's important, but the little font is just for you people that, you know, and I think that's the most offensive thing you can do in a country where it's meant to be bicultural and where you've signed actually an agreement that says we'll try and, you know, have an equality.
There is also going to be, Chewy, road signs that already have Māori and English on them. I'm sure if you go into Waikato somewhere, there'll be a road sign that goes Rotorua that way, Hamilton that way. Oh my God, it's got Māori on it and it's got English on it. And no one seems to have a problem. So if it says Dunedin and Otepoti, what's the big deal?
We've got road signs that are entirely in Māori.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with road signs, is that they should be clear and understandable whether you understand the language or not. That's their whole purpose of being. And there's so many countries in the world that have bilingual signs and they've just managed it. I think this just says it says worlds for what National think of people, is that there's no possible way that they can adapt. It's just all too hard. We don't want anything to change. And people are adaptable. People are flexible. They have the mental plasticity to take in new ideas. And I think your comments about people in the regions pushing back against this sort of stuff, I think it comes from one of two places. It's either they feel fragile, that they don't know this sort of stuff. It's like whenever you start something and you don't know, it makes you feel a little bit small and vulnerable. Like I you know, other people know this better than I do, and I feel bad, right? And then there's the people that are like, it's a little bit more weaponized. It's no, because I'm a white person and white people are on top. And they might not put it as bluntly as that, but that's certainly
well actually Tim Vandermolen, who I actually respect as an MP on some things, he said, he didn't say on top, he said in a bigger font, and I just think that says speaks volumes. That, you know, just a slight, we need a bigger font for English, and I've worked in museums and stuff, and the whole point about, you know, what you put on top or what you put on bottom, how you do it side by side, it's quite an issue. And the thing that comes loud and clear to most rational people is equality. You know, make it the same. If you have to put one on top of the other, then mix it around. If you put them side by side, that's better. But it you know, don't make one dark and easy to read and one light and difficult to read. You know, there's things you can do. But I think I should also say, you know, Don Brash is a very urban person, so let's not only blame the regions for this. It's a nationwide thing. There's pockets in the cities who are, but I absolutely agree, Chewy. It's an insecurity. It's like, oh my God, these people are flexing their muscles, and that could be the end of me. And I think that it's exactly the opposite.
And I think actually the National Party knows that the narrative they're pushing is not true. I think you're both right that this is a feeling, let's say, coming more commonly from the rural area, but I don't believe the National Party actually buys into it, but they know it will get them votes, which is the definition of dog whistling. Yeah,
look, I'd say a majority of National MPs certainly don't agree with it. And a lot of their people, and they've said, you know, repeatedly, no, we support Chris Bishop, Nicola Willis, we support bilingual signs. It's just that, you know, they're a broad church, just like the Green Party are and just like the Labour Party are. And so they have a variety of views. And you know, you could, as an impartial observer, say, yeah, but their political management on this is not too great. The other thing I'd say is while I do think there is I wouldn't call it a hatred, but there's an insecurity about the road signs. And this is something I tried to do in the satire and the column, is I don't think everyone that sort of runs up their hands and says, "Oh my God, this woke stuff. I can't understand it. What's happening to New Zealand? And they're calling it Aotearoa." I don't think everyone that says that is a terrible racist. I don't think they're not white supremacists. They're not horrible people, Nazis trying to, you know, they're sort of, if you the terrible thing about being a satirist is you start liking your targets. And I started writing this guy who drives his granddaughter in his Lexus to Hamilton, and he hates calling it Kirikiriroa, and he loves that Auckland's named after a person we've never heard of and don't ever regard in our history. And I the terrible thing is I started making fun of him, and then I started really liking him. and the one Maori guy at the bowling club that happens to forget his pen to sign a petition against the new Maori name. The terrible thing I have as a satirist is I like the people that I take the piss out of, and so I end up going, well, they're not all bad, they're not all terrible people, and I do think this is true about a lot of people that are talking about road signs.
I think perhaps a big part of it is they are, and I don't use this as a put down, literally as a not having enough knowledge. They're ignorant as well, and
there's a bit of ignorance going on.
Ignorance is not necessarily bliss. Like I've told the story before about knowing a really elderly person, really elderly, who has passed now, who made it to past 100, who had some very horrible things to say about the Japanese people in general. But when you get to hear her backstory, that her husband was taken as a prisoner of war in Japan and came back a different man, you have the ability to step aside and say, I hate the words you're using, but I can give you the grace for why you have that feeling. And when you talk about not, starting to like some of the subjects you're talking about, it's like, I think, and I'm not in your position, I haven't written like you, but when you hear some of those things, let's say it's these people who have been sucked into the anti-vaxxer world, I typically, as best I can, feel empathy first for them. But then for the instigators, you feel pretty angry, especially if they're grifting. So feel pretty angry about this when it comes to the National Party, because they're playing a dog whistling game. But for the people who don't understand, like I put a message out today that says, if people don't get yet that even if you're not Māori, the Māori story is a part of your story if you're a part of New Zealand, because it is part of New Zealand. If you don't get that, then you're missing a whole part about being a Kiwi. Now, you've mentioned the writings. We should probably get to it as well. We don't have to rush. Actually, do you want to respond to what I've just said, Dave, before we get to this? You're more than welcome.
Oh no, just I agree totally, and I think you have to take people's background, you have to take their age into account. When my father, who died a few years ago in his 90s, when he was a kid, people would talk about horo whenua, because they didn't realize WH, was a f sound, and I grew up saying horo whenua because that's how I was taught. But I lived in the world of really bad mispronunciation. So I'm really good on whangarei because I've never lived there. But parapara umu, we always called it parapara as kids. So I'm one of those people I'm satirizing. I'm that guy.
You've said it the long way. I've heard people just call it pram.
Oh yeah, well they do that. We never got that. Luckily, we never got that bad in my family, but and so I think New Zealand is a work in progress, and to say to people you disagree with, oh, you're a terrible person, how dare you win the election, or how dare you, I don't have that view, and I like to think that I work with people from all sorts of walks of life, and sometimes some of their attitudes might horrify me, but they never horrify me enough to say write them off as people and don't be nice to them. Don't think that they're not redeemable. And I think that's maybe that makes me not as, vicious a satirist as I could be. But I also sometimes think being gentle can make more points than being nasty.
I actually experienced that today, actually. I had a man that decided to tell me a story that involved him imitating an Indian accent.
Yeah.
And in previous years, I probably would have ignored it. Online, I would have called him all manner of nasty names, but in person, I was like, I don't think that story really needed the imitation.
Yeah, that's right.
And he kind of went, oh, you know what I mean? And I was like, you were talking to a person in a call center.
It
doesn't change your story. But so maybe for next time. And he kind of just went, but I really, I think that'll stick with him more. Than a more aggressive approach.
As someone who's made mistakes and tried to write comedy, and we all, who knows where the bodies are buried. I think it's a far better approach is to be sort of reasonable and talk about it, and not pretend that you're just pure as the driven snow, and that everything you've already. I've made terrible mistakes and had to apologize and stuff. So I mean, I don't believe in everyone being sort of holier than thou, and dare I say it, as a self-declared lefty, sometimes the left can be pretty tough. You've got to do all the right things and tick the right boxes, and
we've done whole shows on that.
And we've been the target of the left in the way that you're describing pretty heavily.
I've got the T-shirt. Yeah, no, me too. So I think that's a thing one can get very critical. And of course, when you're in the industry, as I am occasionally, of trying to make people laugh, sometimes you can miscalculate or say something that offends people.
Well, this one has made a lot of people laugh. We were just talking before we came on here about this has gone a little bit viral, this article, so much so that it was behind a paywall. We think it's probably not now because I don't pay a subscription to be a part of the post. I can see it. So we're assuming it's not behind the paywall anymore. People can investigate that for themselves. The way I found it was to look up Dave Armstrong, and I looked up kibosh because I thought there's probably not too many articles that you've written with the word kibosh in it, Dave, and that was a pretty easy way.
A little known fact, I didn't write that title. So if you write a column in New Zealand, you don't write the title, you just write the column, and then they come up, and it's very clever. I've got very good sub-editors because, of course, kibosh is a foreign word.
Exactly.
And so they've nailed it on that one. But yeah, so often people write to me and say, I didn't like you using the word kibosh, in your column. And I go, well, actually, I didn't. It was someone else's job to make the to do the headline. But everything else is mine, including the typos.
In fact, what I'll do right now is I'll just put it into the YouTube chat so people can find it for themselves should they want to have a look. Right, so let's have a look at the article, because what you've done is very, very clever and very, very funny. You've taken on the persona of someone in the... let's just read it. It says, the other day I drive the Lexus to Tauranga, or Safe Anchorage, as we call it at my North Shore Bowling Club, which has admittedly made us a bit of a laughing stock since the Rena disaster. Anyway, I come up to a stop sign. Underneath is a word in Māori I don't understand. The stop sign could have been saying, don't stop, stop, not really, or stop if you like it, feel like it, or stop only if you're not Māori. But I don't know, because like most of us at the bowling club, I only speak English. I'm not going to read the whole article out, Dave, but some bits that particularly tickled me. You're talking about, as you said before, about your granddaughter, well, the character's granddaughter, and that granddaughter's, and I'm going to use the word, you don't use this word in the article, but she's a bit woke and she understands more of this Marialism.
That's right.
And this is about your the granddaughter. It says, she says I'm a racialist, but how could I be if my favourite rugby player is Ruby Parsonsbird? Ruby Tui, got it.
Parsonsbird, yeah.
Parsonsbird. Boy, that girl's a dag. Anyway, the granddaughter needs to get back to uni, so I give her a lift. With granddaughter in the Lexus, she's able to translate all the Māori words on the traffic signs. You're never going to believe it, but they mean the same thing in Māori as in English. I drop her off in Kiriroa, or long stretch of Graveltron, as we call it at the bowling club. Who would have thought Māori predicted boy races all these years ago? Clever buggers. Something else you say of these bowling club people with the granddaughter, we drive straight to Mangere, or lazy as we call it at the bowling club. To be honest, the folks at the bowling club called Mangere lazy well before that they knew that was the literal Māori translation. Very clever, like that bit. And you finish off by saying, come on, people, this is New Zealand and we speak English. Labour Party, is that apparatchiks? What's that word? Apparatchiks may think it's de rigueur to pollute our language with potpourri of foreign words and phrases and expect Kiwis to accept this carte blanche. No can do. We will remain in cultural cul-de-sac if we continue this laissez-faire approach to English. It's time to say adieu to foreign-sounding road signs. I tip my chapeau to Chris and Simeon for turning this into a cause celeb. Let's have a blitzkrieg on wokeness and take a tomahawk to bilingual road signs until they are totally verboten. Brilliant, funny, loved it, and wanted to talk to you about it today. Yeah, golf clap. Lovely, Dave. Very, very nice. And I remember, I think I often find watching stand-up comedians are sometimes the people who can tell the most truth with comedy. They can really cut to it by using comedy to speak absolute truth. And this article is brilliant, and the way you've done it is so perfect. And I wanted to talk to you tonight and acknowledge that on the show. And people,
thank you very much. It's great to have a chat. And like I say, I even though it's humour and all that, the other thing I'd add too is that this guy, I think, is typical in that when I think that the thing that terrifies white New Zealanders the most is being called racist, especially by Māori. And I think a lot of what I've loved writing about that character is like he is someone who loves Ruby Tui and thinks she's wonderful, and he's someone that he does have Māori friends and he thinks they're great, and he thinks his granddaughter's great, she's just got a bit of shit on the spark plugs. So I think it's important to acknowledge that when you call out stuff like this or talk about it, things, it's not a dastardly. These people are not terrible people, but hopefully the national debate, for want of a better word, the nationwide debate makes everyone a little bit more tolerant and a little bit happier. If I've done, I got a great tweet where someone said, I came home in a bad mood today, and then I read your column and it made me laugh. And for me, that is better than any award or any adulation or circulation numbers. One person out there just smiled a bit, and that's a sort of cool thing to hear.
I remind you of that when you win your Tony, Dave. That a person smiling is better than any award. It's better than any award.
Mate, I won't even be in the long list or the extra long list.
Dave Armstrong, thank you for joining us. Really appreciate you, I guess, trusting us to jump on and have a bit of a chat. Really enjoyed having you here, and thank you for your writing. It has brought a lot of joy to a lot of people today as we see it floating around the internet. So thanks for coming on, and good on you.
Thank you very much. Great fun.
Cheers, mate.
Hey, welcome back from the clip that just played. I hope you enjoyed it. I want to let you know that the store is still open this week, and for this last week of the pre-recorded shows, we are increasing the discount. It's basically got some stock left over from last year. It's not in its entirety. We don't have every size, but if you're interested in getting some Beardy Boy gear, you can see that the blue and white caps have sold out. There are black and grey or black on grey caps. There are black on black t-shirts, blue on yellow t-shirts left in some sizes, not all sizes, some sizes. But because it's the last of the summer season and we really want to say thanks for you guys joining us on, if you're interested in getting any of this gear, then I'm going to give you a 40% off discount for this week only. 40% off by heading to bhnshop.nz, and when you get to the checkout, use the promo code SUMMER for 40% off remaining caps and t-shirts if you want to get them. Of course, the store will continue to operate through this year as we come back, but for this week only, some of that stock from last year's could be yours at a 40% discount. bhnshop.nz. Thanks so much for being with us tonight, and I look forward to seeing you on Monday again live. Let's get into another clip.
Not all of them are choices.
Well, you want to put
circumstance dictates your choices.
You want to put people into categories, and I'm just showing you how absurd it is. In theory, there could be a different type of superannuation age for every demographic type of person. Well, the truth is that that's a nonsense, and you don't want to take it
there's
where it
already
leads.
A category, your age.
The second thing is, no, there's one age you want to categorise.
But that's a category. You can't. The category is you have to be over the age of 65.
No, the categorisations that you're talking about, your ethnicity, your gender, maybe your work type or whatever.
This is actually quite interesting. You don't see David Seymour flustered very often. He's flustered here. He's like, you're saying, and Anna Burns Francis hasn't said anything. She's asked a couple of questions. And remember, this is also the party and the part of the political spectrum that goes, they're just questions. Why are you pushing? Well, we've got the right to ask questions. They're just questions. And she's asking him really fair questions, especially because if society is only as strong as its weakest link, we do need to think of the vulnerable. And we do need to go, how will this legislation impact the 10% at the bottom, however you want to word it? And he's flustered. He's flustered in this, and his response to being flustered, she hasn't been aggressive. They're perfectly valid questions, is basically him on some level going, well, you're saying this. And she's like, no, I'm not. And she's not. But you don't often see him flustered, and I think I get the vibe that he's fairly flustered in this conversation, Chewy.
Yeah, I've seen that from him before. He'll go on the attack, whether it's a warranted attack or not. And when it's not deserved, when it is something that hasn't been said, it sticks out like nobody's business. You don't see it often. He doesn't let himself get cornered in this way very often, or he doesn't have an interviewer that is able to corner him in this way.
But this isn't even a big corner.
You love to see it, though.
This is even pretty simple. This is the thing that's interesting, is that he hasn't really been trapped. He's just been asked obvious questions. If we raise the age, what about the vulnerable? That's really the only question. That's not a gotcha. That's a really simple question. And yeah, people are mentioning the word flustered. Yeah, he's flustered in this.
Making the point that nobody is seriously talking about categorising people.
So you wouldn't deal with the inequity.
Just like
so you wouldn't deal with the inequity.
And no party seriously suggesting that they would, except for the Maori Party, who make everything about race. I'm saying that the current age is unsustainable, and the issues of categorising people and putting people into boxes, I think people have had enough of that. Each of us are human. Each of us have choices and chances in life. The question for New Zealand is, are we going to have a superannuation scheme that is sustainable, that gives younger people a fair go, or are we going to try and be a global outlier, despite being poorer than many of those countries I mentioned, tax young people harder and see them off to Australia, where, by the way, the superannuation age is being raised to 67?
I don't know that they deal with their Indigenous equity all that well either, David.
Well, with the greatest of respect, I mean, what's that got to do with it?
Well, that's what we're talking about, the whole fact that there is an inequity in the system.
What's that got to do with it is that was the question you were asked. That's actually, even if you don't think it does, the question you were asked was about that, so that's what it's got to do with it. And as I said before, he's flustered because it's a really fair question, and ACT has no response to that, because if you start talking about how do we look after the vulnerable, you immediately have to go into who's vulnerable. You immediately have to go into why they're on the bottom of the pile and all these stats. You immediately then have to acknowledge Māori, for example, are disproportionately negatively impacted by these things, like life expectancy, Chewy.
It's the thing that ACT, they try to cling to this, right? Oh, it's equality. It's equality. Everybody's treated the same. Yeah, everybody's treated the same, and there's absolutely no consideration given to anything else apart from everybody gets treated the same. Now, how many times would you go out and, one size fits all actually fits all?
Yeah.
Here's the one dinner that you can have. Do you like it? It's the same as everybody else.
Yeah.
Many people love this meal. Why don't you love this meal? Well, I guess you'll starve and die then. This is the big thing, that equality is not everything that's cracked up to be, because life is not equal.
Yeah, and the thing that
equity
that Ella Byrne Francis, whatever her name, right? Byrne Francis. What's her first name? Anna Byrne Francis said quite clearly, was that he pushed past all of her points. And there were some good questions in there that he was just pushing past. And at the end, she just basically said, so you wouldn't deal with inequity? And he said, well, no. Yep. At least he's honest. The other thing that's kind of fantastic about this conversation is it does draw a line in the sand pretty clearly. A vote for National is a vote for raising the retirement age. A vote for Labour is a vote for keeping the retirement age where it is. So it does make a good demarcation line for people when it comes to their voting. I missed the chat, but there was someone in the chat that just, there we go, Peter. And he's right. Chloe is looking very comfortable. And I think we've got about 60 seconds to go on this conversation. We'll basically let her wrap it up, shall we? Chloe's last part of this conversation.
And again, but you seem okay with it. If we're to reflect on the broader context, and that being our economic rules and setup, it is the case that we are an outlier
he even looks
internationally with regard to not having a capital gains tax, inheritance tax, or wealth tax, or any other form of taxation, which also seeks to deal with some of those intergenerational inequities. So fundamentally, I think that the problem should be actually addressing our economy and our tax settings, and then we can actually start to put in place rules that enable us all to live far better, healthier lives in the first place. And when we're looking at the superannuation age and whether we should raise it or otherwise, what is the point of us developing and evolving as a society, of us having these productivity gains or otherwise, if we're only going to continue working longer and longer for more hours?
There you go.
Queen! Yeah. Just call it. Just give her the crown. That's all I'm like. Oh my God. Every time she's not on camera in that interview, I feel like she's going to come over the back of that couch with a steel chair.
All right, team, that's us. We're done for the night. I got told off last week that you guys weren't prepared for the finishes of the show. So this is just a little recorded outro to go, that's it. We're done. And remember, tell the world, spread it around. Monday the 22nd, next Monday, we are back live from 9 p.m. here on Big Hearing News. But for right now, hope you enjoyed that clip.